I'm coming alive, stepping into my purpose, walking in the path that heaven designed. No more hiding, no more selling.
And so let's talk about you and where you're at. You know, when you think of your life and you want to measure life, you can't just think of one area, right? So before I start the presentation, I want you to think about your life. And by the way, I want you to really just take some time, because for the next 50 minutes, we're going to focus in and go deeper in so I can share with you what the big, long journey is. This is just the beginning, right? There are about 8 modules literally prepared. And I'm going to really take you through the overview of the first 3. And I'll tell you where the 8 modules take you to. But I want you to think of your life. And when you measure your life, ask yourself this. 0 out of 10. 10 is the best, 0 not doing so well, right? How are you doing with your health? Give yourself a number. How are you doing with your health? Emotional, mental, physical. How you feel about your health? Number 2, how you feel you're doing with your finances, personally? Number 3, how you feel you're doing with your family life? If you're married, if you're not married, with your siblings, your brothers, your sisters, those who are married, your spouse, your children, how are you doing with your family life? And let's talk about business or your career. How are you doing with that? Give yourself a number. How do you feel you're doing in the area of your work? And then in the area of contribution, how do you feel that you're doing? Your life is here for a cause, right? You can make an impact in society based on what you do. There's always room for giving back, helping people who are less fortunate. How do you feel you're doing there? And then what about your dreams and goals? Probably you really want to travel. You want to do a passion project. You want to go to different places in the world. Like one of my dreams is to travel, see different chefs, sit down with them for 2 days, let them teach me the local seasonings and the meals, so that over the years I will be able to gather authentic cuisine from different parts of the world. I've always told my family that I love to prepare food and see people have fun when they're eating it. So that's one of my dreams. How are you doing in that area? Are you getting to do any of the things that you dream about? Why am I asking you these questions? I'm asking you these questions because life is just not one thing. Can't just say, oh, I'm amazingly healthy and we're not doing well financially. Oh, my family's life is the best family life, but we're physically sick. Oh, you know, I'm traveling the world, I'm doing this, but your family don't talk to you. How could we win in one area and call it a win? Can't be a win. Has to be holistic. So you're looking at your life, you're measuring your life. And what I realized is that people who I felt was living what I call a life that was holistic and success, well-rounded life, something was true to their very core. I observed something over the years. And what was true to their core? This was a very authentic person living in what I call alignment with the divine plan. Luke, what's the divine plan? What was meant for you? You know, it says that a man can make his own plans, and then it says, God says, he said, I have a plan for you. So which plan we gonna work? Think about it. I know the plans I have for you. This is God telling you that. And then a man's own mind makes his own plans. And what happens in life? There's a clash of plans. Your plan versus his plan. The people who I see living holistically from their very core, it seems like it's one plan. They are not resisting his plan. They're going with what he meant for them to do. You're bent in a certain way, and you're going with the way that God shaped you. You're going with the things that he placed on the inside. You're not fighting it with your own plan. You're not gifted for one thing and you're squeezing it another way. You're in a flow state. I don't train and tell people how much money you can make, but I can tell you one of the great impacts will be income. Why? Because when you walk in those rooms, you're going to be having a different impact in the room. So what happens is you become more valuable in the rooms that you are. When you become more valuable, you're not paid for your time, but for the value you bring to the marketplace. So one of the outcomes of becoming more aligned is that there will be increase. I have stories to tell you of people that I've helped. I can tell you about the companies, but let me give you real quick what happened with me. Who's there to really help you in your life with what to do with this thing called life? Who's there to help you? Your parents are there, but can I tell you, many parents are not equipped. We got these kids studying all kinds of things. Let me say this to you. Some of you experience what you call failure. You failed in races that you weren't supposed to run. That's not failure. That's a lack of alignment. It's like a fish feeling depressed because it can't climb a tree. Who told you to run that race? Your power is in another area, a whole different context. Your amazing, superb potential, it comes alive in something called water. Who convinced you to stay up all these hours, study for 4 years, get the degree in trying to climb a tree, and you're empty? And you call it failure. That's not failure. You put everything out there. You spent a lot of money and you're on top of a mountain that's not your mountain. Lack of alignment. Some of you could be earning much more than you're earning. But your effort don't have a punch in the market. Why? Because the effort is not aligning with the gifts. One of the biggest discoveries. Let me just tell you my story really quickly. It's not about me because I want to give you the information. But I got to tell you because unless I walk the path of confusion, I couldn't tell you how to get out of it. Everybody just always like to tell you, this is what you should do with your life. This is what you do. And most of the times it was targeted at earning more money. Now, is that a bad thing? No. But I have learned you can make money literally doing anything today. Let's just be honest. There are girls on OnlyFans with their toes in Jello, making more money than people with engineering degrees. Huh? What are we talking? That's the world today. There are people on a YouTube channel just running into walls, jumping off of a cow, doing silly things, making money. So why did we make decisions just based on making money when money is a result of doing things in a certain way? Why target your entire life just because you wanted to make a certain amount of money? And by the way, back in Trinidad at that time, it was be a doctor, be a dentist, be a lawyer. Those were the big jobs. Can I tell you? Those are not the people. They're still making a good income, but I tell you today, that's not where the big money is alone. People making big money in a lot of areas. And most of the time, they're making it in an area that, one, has a demand on what they can supply. And two, it's where they have mastery. So a lot of people didn't have good help. Nobody in the home to give you good counsel. I spoke to teachers on how they advise students to choose subjects in Trinidad and Tobago. I got to tell you, I'm very disappointed. I've created a tool for that, to help with that. That's going to be released this year. Starting talks with the Ministry of Education to get kids in alignment from teenage. Why? Because we're choosing subjects that are not meant for us. They're not bent for us. So why are we even going down that road? So I didn't know what to do. My name is Luke. People say, oh, Luke is a doctor. Luke is a physician from the Bible. So I just thought that my parents would be proud for me to go study medicine. Went to Presentation College, Trinidad and Tobago. The reason I have to say Trinidad is an international call. And I'm fighting to do these sciences, biochem, physics, math, further math, and all these things. I'm doing it here, but I'm not doing it there. And it's a struggle. It's not even your dream, you know. It's a dream given to you by somebody who has misread you. And it's not in alignment with what you are meant to do. To come out of college, I could have played music naturally. The drums, still play guitar, and you know, I write songs and stuff. Those are things I never went to school to learn. I just did that naturally. And watch what happened. I got a school in Florida, Florida Memorial University, were looking for students from Trinidad, but one of the requirements is you had to be open because they were forming a steel band in that university. They were looking for students who either learned to play the steel pan from Trinidad or any of the percussion instruments, and you could do your degree. From Trinidad, I wanted a scholarship, but I never played pan. I'm a Trini, never played pan. But I used to play the drums. And so they said, listen, the tryout is tomorrow. I had one day to prepare. I'd go make a cassette tape and do trials and whatever. They heard me and they said, we'll give you this scholarship, partial music scholarship, and then partial academic scholarship. And I'm packing my bags heading for the States. I was always good with tech stuff. So I wanted to do management information systems as well. Because my dad, you know, they were very impressed with me doing pre-med, but I thought it would have been making them happy more than me. So when I did MIS, which was more aligned with what I wanted to do, I never really studied for that degree, I got to tell you. I just flew through that because I was so interested. I loved it. It was very natural to me. I just did not know what to do because I said the rest of the world is never going to move away from computers. It's going to be something that I could always use in the job market. So you finish your degree now and it's time to go get work. So I did MIS. Let me go get a job in Dell. Got a job in Dell. And when I went to work, guys, the first day, I saw a lady with a cubicle and she had pictures of her children when they were small and pictures of them graduating from high school. And it's like the cubicle was her home. She made nice birthday cards and flowers. The cubicle was amazing. When I saw that, I got scared. I said, people spend so long in a cubicle? This is scary. Why would you stay so long in this small space? And I got scared about the world of work. How long people stay in certain places with no growth. I said, I got to get out of here. I am not staying in any cubicle. I left my cubicle boring. I said, what to do next? I don't like this work. Now let me say this to you. Some of you are failing, but you're not failing fast. You have the fail on a ... That means you're stuck in indecision. Call it a failure if you're not having fulfillment in what you're doing. Don't take long while you're playing wrong. We always talk about that in cards. Fail fast. Call it a failure. That's it. This didn't work for me. Move on. A lot of you don't have the move on. So you're staying in something that is leaking your peace, leaking your joy, leaking your fulfillment, and you're not moving. I don't know what you need. You need something to get you up. Listen, sometimes when you get upset and leave a place, it's God. You know why? Because you were so comfortable. He needed to rile you up to get you out of that place so you could get into a new place. Closer to what his plan is for you. So sometimes those goodbyes is a setup for the hellos. Thank God for a good goodbye. I'm out. So I could get to move on to something different. So there I am, and I said, this is it. I'm not there. Guys, you know what I did? I left that job and I was washing cars. While I had that job, I washing cars, a car wash. That's when I met my wife. Ask her. She used to come and park up and watch me wash these cars in a car wash. Some of you say, Luke, a car wash? Ask her. Then I start to buy jewelry and handbags wholesale from downtown Miami, sending it to Trinidad by barrels because I had a natural thing for entrepreneurship. See, let me say this to you, and we ain't get to the slides yet. I'll get to the slides. You have to study yourself. You have to, what we're going to do for 30 days, for those of you who decide to take the journey on, you know, the Bible says every man has to work out their own salvation. Life has to be worked on. You have to work on your life. Some of you just living life, but you're not working on your life. Study yourself. Stop letting people tell you what to get excited about. You should know within yourself. There's a fire that lights up in me when I do something. It could be entrepreneurial. Don't kill the fire. So I realized I used to try a lot of things. And by the way, wives, if you see a husband trying a lot of things, don't discourage him. He hasn't found it yet, but that's how we warm up. Ask my wife. I do a lot of things before I got to some of the main things I did. And vice versa. Husband, if you see her trying a few things, encourage her. She's trying to find herself. It's like we're trying to find the alignment. I did that. I started to sell things online, books. Rach was working in a retail store. We started selling stuff online when we got married. We're both entrepreneurial. And then something hit me that people, the same struggle I had about finding alignment, other people were having that struggle. A lot of people used to come and talk to me. And then I say in my master's, I want to deal with people because I realized I love helping people, the transformation. So I went and do organizational leadership and development. When I went into that, again, I felt I was in flow state in my studies. I say, this is the spot for me. But before that, something had happened in college where they asked me to give an international perspective on the college. And they asked me to speak for 5 minutes. They had a bunch of college scouts there. I spoke, and a college scout said, young man, I want to bring you to Georgia. If you speak, you'll help a lot of the African-American students, the males, to get started. I say, where's your school? He said, in Georgia. I say, well, we're in Florida, sir. How am I going to get there? And he said, I'll pay for your flight, pay for your hotel, and I'll pay you. I say, let's go. I get down to Georgia. I speak in a gymnasium, 40 minutes, 67 students sign up. To me, all right. I just spoke and 67 people sign up. But I was 67 by $30,000 in school fees, scholarship coming back to my university. Dr. Carl Wright, the university president, called me in and said, Luke, I usually send a big team to do recruiting in a college fair. You alone went, and about 67 students signed up. So let's go for breakfast. Let's go play golf. But I was sleeping on a gift. I want you to hear me. Because when I do these things, it comes from my heart. I want to wake somebody up who is sleeping on a gift. That was the story of Guyana, sleeping on your wealth. Where's the wealth? Right within our land. But we had not found out yet. We didn't discover it. So you're doing everything else for everybody, and you're sleeping on your gift. I'm not able to see the chat. I don't even know if we have a chat. This is my first time on this YouTube studio, whatever. So I'm not even seeing if you guys are there with me. Hopefully you're there. Those of you on the WhatsApp chat, you could probably just send me a message and let me know if we're good to go. I'm going to edit this down and everything will be good. So don't worry. Tell me. Let me know. I see somebody's going to message me. Evangeline, we're here. I know y'all got my back. Okay, have no chat. Next time we'll have. Okay, everybody good. Okay, I get 100 message now. We can't comment. I know if y'all had chance to comment, you'd have been distracted. All up in the chat. All right. So I get down there and the guy gave me an envelope. Chrissy said, we here. When he gave me the envelope have envelope, I say envelope and envelope. Envelope is from North Trinidad. Envelope is from central to south. All right, let me not get distracted. For those of you international, that's an inside joke. The envelope had $1,100. I used to work for $232 every 2 weeks on college campus. I say, why does man give me so much money? This man made a mistake. Because sometimes when people start seeing the results of your gift, you have a kind of imposter syndrome about your own self. You start backing off and say, oh, no. You start playing down yourself. Oh, no, I'm not this. I'm not. Oh, no, anybody could bake a cake. Or anybody could paint. Or anybody could design this. Anybody. You start playing down yourself. Why? Because you don't think it's a big deal. But those who are receiving think it's a big deal. Write this down. The fruit of the tree is not for the tree. You ever see a mango tree eating mangoes? You ever see a coconut tree drinking coconuts? It's surrounded by people who need its fruit. But the tree is not fed by its own fruit. And that's why we look at ourselves like that sometimes. The demand is for the thing we can produce that solves the problem for the world. But when that guy gave me the money and I thought everything was wrong, before that plane landed, I could still see it today. The sun is setting on the right. I sat down by the window. I'm in line with the wing of the plane. And I heard a voice in my heart says, that man sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. Write this down. When the plane landed, write this down. Here's the truth I got. Never plan your future without your gifts. It's not the future that you want. Don't plan your life around your gifts, over your gifts, beneath your gifts. Don't plan a life not integrating or using the very power that God gave you to survive and to have abundance overflow in this life. Look, what do you mean? Because potential is part of God's name. His name is omnipotent, omni, all, potent, power. His name is all power. So potential is some of God's power in me. Why did he give me that? A man's gift will make room for him. So the way God gives everybody the ability to survive and thrive is he placed something in them that the world will need. Once there's a demand and there's a supply, we have economy. Value being exchanged for compensation. Where's the value? In you. But it is laying dormant. Some of you have discovered, but you haven't developed. Some of you have developed, but you haven't deployed in the way you could deploy. So stop worrying about money. Stop worrying about money. Slap somebody next to you and tell them, stop worrying about money. Money's worrying about you. Money waiting for you to wake up. 30 days after we get started, some of you are going to, you want me to put, I got some people on this call that has evidence. Ask them. I could bring some people on this call that have evidence. Will tell you, follow exactly what that man told me. I don't want to call numbers. I don't want to bait you, but I tell you, alignment does something for increase. Why? Because the world needs what you have. Now, I'm going to put you under a little pressure here, but don't feel bad. If you don't give the world what they need, it's kind of being selfish. What if Mother Teresa held back that level of care and love that she left on this world? What would the world be? What if Nelson Mandela withheld that humility the gift of leadership, the gift to unite those who were the minority and to bring a people together. What if he withheld? South Africa still today would have never been the same. What if Mahatma Gandhi didn't, he withheld the wisdom that says we can resist without violence? What if he kept all of that from the world? Would it not be cheating the world of what the world could become because I decided that I am not going to give to the world what God sent through me? Let me speak for the world. We need what you have to offer. Do not let us go through this life without being blessed by what you bring to this world. We need, listen, when I see my wife take places from dry and my wife walks into all kind of places like nothing. And when she finishes, Sir and Cheryl will sometimes go and take pictures. I watch her. It's like, that's what God does. In the beginning, the earth was void and dark. There is nothing. And God said something. And when he says something, let there be light. And there was what? Light. So today the door will open. My birthday is on the 25th of June. But I want to start my first live with you in the community on the 24th of June. But the door opens today for you to understand what the whole journey is about. And if you will decide to invest in yourself to do it, right? Now watch this. I don't have to ask you these questions because I know what the answer is. Have you ever felt like there's another version of you waiting to emerge? Yeah. And if there are couples on here, let me say this to you. Your spouse is hoping that that other version comes to life. They love you the way you are, but nobody who is in love with you leaves you the same way. Why? God said this in John 15. He said, I see the tree that is bearing fruit. What do? It is pruned that it will bear more fruit. And then the tree that is bearing more fruit is pruned that it will bear much fruit. I got a powerful lesson from that, in that God is not just impressed with our performance, he's challenged by our potential. Performance is used potential, but there's resting potential in us. God looks at the resting potential in us. He's not overwhelmed by the used potential, which is in our performance, and he says, there's more inside of you, and I want the more. The reason why there are well over 200 people registered is because this is relevant to our world today. People are growing up every day. In the Caribbean, which is 44.6 million people, on average there's about 4 to 4.6 million people who are between the ages of 16 to 21, and all of them guaranteed are asking themselves these questions. All of them. So here's the paradox. The paradox of success and fulfillment. I could deal with all the quadrants. There are people with very low internal clarity and they have low external growth. They're not experiencing this life in a good way. They need help. And hopefully I pray that many of them are on this call. Then there are those in the frustration zone where there's a lot that you have done, produced, you're working, you've made the money, you bought your car, you're doing some things, but you still lack something, and there's a low sense. Listen, there are people who message me about this call at very high levels in corporate. Very high levels in corporate. And they're feeling a sense of emptiness. Do you know why? It's a lack of alignment. Those of you who are unmarried, this is another type of coming together that is important. Two people who are aligned. Because compatibility is not just about our likes, and if we like cheesecake and you like chocolate and I like Pinot Grigio and you like Cabernet Sauvignon. This is not just about that. It's also about you're becoming who you were meant to be. I'm falling in love with your becoming. I tell you, one of the greatest frustrations is to have one spouse who is growing and the other one who is stuck. Ask the one who's growing. And so even in marriage, people want an aligned spouse. What we want is high clarity within and high growth without. And that's why we have created this experience to help people. I don't have to tell you this, but by now you would have picked up that before growth, there must be clarity. You want to be clear. So I've helped a lot of leaders, professionals, entrepreneurs, and I've noticed this is something that everybody needs help with. And the clarity is foundational. I remember my wife when she was in college and we'd be talking about work, you know, helping each other in class and doing all of that. And it's a long distance relationship. She was doing interior design. And I always remember a lesson that she was doing from a designer called Tao, T-A-O. And in his design, he involved a lot of natural light. And I remember overhearing her with her classmates, and they said this: first comes the function, then the form. Form comes before function. And I thought that that was so powerful because the Bible says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I actually knew you. And I call you to be a prophet. So even God established people's callings before they were actually formed. Before there was a physical you, there was a spiritual you that God already finished and say, this is what this child will be born to do. Have you not seen that in the scripture? Say, his name shall be called this, and he shall forgive the people from their sins. Like all of that is done. He's not born yet. How? Because before your beginning, you were already complete. I'll go over a lot of heads. But before you see, your birthday is not your beginning. Yeah, your birthday is actually not your beginning. That's when we welcome you into earth. But you began a long time before your birth. The form will come before the function. So when I started to observe people's lives out of alignment, watch what happens. You've seen high levels of frustration, high levels of burnout. People are drifting. There's a high level of confusion. And it's like the energy is leaking. Now, there's something that's not on the list here that I said to somebody today. And I want you to write this down. If it cost you your peace, leave it and leave them. Are you hearing me? Oh, I came to save somebody's life. If it cost you your peace, and that peace is a peace that is only associated when you're aligned with the people, the places, the things, the efforts, the opportunities that was meant for you. It's a different energy when your life is aligned. The conviction is different. There's a sense of intentionality. There's a sense of momentum. There's a sense of purpose. Huh? So how do we build the architecture of alignment? How do we get to the place where we practically do this? Luke, let's get into it. The foundation is who you are. Are you there? We start with who you are. You say, well, Luke, I know who I am. My name is Nikki Sutherland out of the UK. That's what most people say. When I ask them who they are, they tell me their names. I have a good friend. Her name is Akuswa Dardane Edwards. She went to Africa to a conference to learn on how the women in the village pool their finances together to create, the SMEs and create economy and create business to help people launch businesses. And they use certain financial infrastructures to launch people into entrepreneurship. She liked that idea. She wanted to bring it back to the Caribbean. So she traveled thousands of miles. And when she got there, she says, "Hi, my name is Akuswa Darlene Edwards. I came from Trinidad and Tobago. This is what I came to." And the lady says, "Who are you?" She says, "My name is Akuswa Darlene Edwards, and I came to," and she goes down to her title and what she does and everything. And the mother of the village says, "Daughter, when you know who you are, come back to me." So Akuswa walks off very confused. She says, "I came from so far to have this lady, the mother of the village, tell me I don't know who I am." So she goes back to the lady and says, "Ma'am, I told you I'm Akuswa Darlene Edwards from Trinidad and Tobago. This is what I do. This is what I represent. And I came here to," and the lady says, "Daughter, when you know who you are, then come back to me." And Akuswa says, "Well, who are you?" And the lady says, "I am light. I am the power that holds this village together. I am wisdom. I represent the counsel of God in the midst of my generation." And she kept on describing herself as like she knew the very ingredients that God placed inside of her. And Akuswa said she started to cry. She took some time away. And then she came back to the lady, and the lady said, "Who are you?" And Akuswa said, "I am love. I am grace that traveled thousands of miles from the Caribbean to receive." And she kept on expressing, and the lady says, "Welcome in." It's one of my favorite stories I tell people all over. Here's where some of you are struggling. And I tell you, this world will test you. You still don't know who you are from God's perspective. You've tried to figure it out from your own mind. Can I tell you this? Who you are is none of your business when it comes to your own thoughts about yourself. What you have to figure out, and I tell you, this is a very prayerful process, is what type of weapon does God say you are? Like if you are an arrow in his quiver, you're a different type of weapon. My cousin on here, Angela Cruikshank, she's a different type of weapon. Huh? My good friend Lyndon Balker, and he's a different type of weapon. My good friend Kevin Raymond he's a different type of weapon. You have to know who you are. You're not normal. And stop acting like it. And stop going in circles where people are trying to tell you to act normal. You are not normal. When you find that out, you'll start to walk into rooms and your presence demands an explanation. Who is she? What does she do? You haven't said a word yet because you woke up to who God said you were. I remember David coming to drop food for his brothers. His brother says, "All right, we got the food. Go back to daddy and watch your few sheep." Few sheep. Because in their eyes, David was a delivery boy. But in God's eyes, David was the deliverer of Israel. It sounds alike, but it ain't related. Some of you have been running with other people's opinion of you like if it's revelation. It ain't revelation. It's them being threatened. It's them being insecure. It's them misreading your anointing. It's them trying to play you a role so that you will stay small and don't grow beyond them. Well, the days for that is over. You must wake up to who God says you are. We walk through and you will be very clear. Once the foundation of identity is laid, I always help people to get the why of their life. Yesterday I said no to an appointment, a 5-figure training and appointment. And when I said no, I felt such a release. Back in the day, If I lost appointments that cost money, I used to feel bad. I used to feel, wow, I should have gotten that. I gave it away. I felt so good. You know why? It was going to cost me my peace. And I said, wow, when your life is aligned, not even money can get you to cross the line outside of the lane you were called to serve. Because it's going to cost you your peace. Only when you know why you are here, you will know where you should be. So many people are searching in our world. They don't know the why of their life. Thirdly, we go after gifts. And the reason I didn't put skills there, it's gifts. Skills I can teach. Gifts you were given. And there has to be a plan for the discovery of it, development of it, and deployment of it. We go in depth so I can show you what to do. You just saying, I want to speak to people all over the world, that's not even a discovery. Speak to who? About what? Why? Do you have revelation on this thing? Did God give you a specific You have to get very specific. You can't be a wandering generality about gifts. You must be a meaningful specific about it. Anybody who's close to me know that I will influence people in government. My influence is for governance. I will talk to people who are kings, nations. That's why God gives me revelation according to my purpose, and he has given me the gifts to empower me for that purpose. I don't go anywhere else. I only go in rooms I can win. Those were rooms aligned for the problems that I can solve. You don't need to be in every room, and everybody doesn't need to hear you. It comes from alignment. And then number one, I can tell you probably 90% of most leaders don't have a clear vision for what they're going to do. They don't. They're just enjoying the fruits of doing what they have discovered and they develop, but there's not a picture they're trying to create. And by the way, if that vision doesn't involve other people, it's not really a vision. Because well-crafted visions ought to outlast you. And if there's not a component there where your children can't walk in what you're seeing, you probably got that in a boardroom, not a prayer room. The things that God will show you, you can't live long enough for it to happen. It will outlast you. So you got to train up people, which is another part of the 8 modules I'm going to show you. You cannot multiply the thing God called you to do in the earth if you don't develop others. It was a model that Jesus left before us. So that's what happens in your first 30 days. Some of you say, well, Luke, I have this. That also is scaled. Because I could tell you, I could go back to identity. Some of you have accepted who God called you to be, but it was that season. And God is calling for an upgrade. God is actually called to show you another chapter of who you are, but you have not accepted that. So therefore, you cannot walk in it. Because we're back to square one of you saying, that's not me. That's beyond me. Okay, about 10 minutes again. So let me ask you this. Where are you standing right now? How clear are you about who you are? How clear are you about why you're here? How clear are you about what you carry? Because I know you're loaded. What clear about you? How clear about you about where you're going? So this void that we feel in the clarity, that gap is actually filled with alignment. You hear me say this a lot. This alignment is an active process. It starts internally and you see the impact externally. I'm going to Ghana in about 2 weeks. You know, Ghana is a perfect example of being rich but not collecting on it. I submit to some of you, you are rich, but you're not collecting on it. And when I say rich, it includes money, but it is not limited to it. My wife would tell you, whether in this country or another, I can walk the streets, walk the different places, and the influence it goes over the borders, where favor is shown to me and my family because of the things that I have done to pour value in the lives of people. We have people from South Africa on this call right now. We have people from Kenya on this call. There are people from Canada on the call. There are people from the US on the call. People from the Caribbean on the call. Discovery happens in phases. There are things you would have discovered very early in your journey, and there are things that you'll discover now, because you're growing. Guyana was sitting on their wealth, but the reason they couldn't collect it is because you have to discover it, but then develop it. People don't buy from you in discovery stage. That's why you probably have not collected on it yet. And people actually don't buy from you in the developing stage. They need the oil in a form that they can use it. So you have to come through your stages so you can deploy the value you discovered in a form that the people can use. Now the money is going to come in. Now the influence is going to grow. Now the increase is going to happen. Why? Because your value is now in a form that is palatable to the world, that carries the problem you were called to solve. You got to go through the process. So that's just phase one. We get core. The best time I ever had with physical workout was a lady called Maru. She used to train down south in Gulf City. If you're in Trinidad, you will know. She used to do, swimsuit model. So she really understood the contours of the body. And I always remember I used to feel embarrassed because my friends would be lifting up all these big heavy weights in the gym, and Maru would say, "All right, Luke, grab those 10s. I said, "What are we doing with those 10s? She says, "Go ahead, 25 reps. And I kind of hide in because I don't want my friends to see I'm doing these 25 reps, embarrassed that these light weights are here. And she says, "Luke, what we're learning is form." See, a lot of your friends who are lifting those heavy weights, a lot of them not going to be here in weeks because injury is coming. I can see that they're lifting the weight without form. So they're not going to get the results they want. They're also going to be at very high risk for injury. She said, before you increase the weight, let's work on form. When you're working with a coach, they will always know the order of how growth happens, what to work on first. Some people want to jump ahead. She says, "Luke, if your core is weak, it will hold you back from doing certain exercises. So you got to build the core first. Get strong at the core." That's what I do spiritually. I help people to build their core spiritually first. Then we advance. How strong is your core? About 5 minutes again. Then I go into growth. So for example, the first 3 models really talks about discovery, development, deployment. But when we leave that, I go to a growth module. So this is just the foundation. I'm going to tell you the 8 modules. I go to a growth module because I realize once people have gone through the discovery, when you ask most people, "Do you want to grow?" "Yes." "What's your growth plan?" They don't know. They don't have one. You're just growing randomly. Listen to something on YouTube, read a book, download something on Audible. It's without intention. Go to a nutritionist, go to a coach, physical coach. Growth is not random. It's decided because a result has already been determined, so they know exactly what you should be working on. That's how you have to treat your life. Don't treat it randomly. You're worth something. You're worth more. Don't treat it randomly where you're just reading anything, you're blowing in the wind. Don't wander at it. Be specific about your growth. Is it communication? Is it emotional intelligence? Is it leadership? Is it decision making? What is it? Is it growing your mental capacity? Is it understanding spiritual direction? What is it that you're working on for your growth plan? We'll work out growth plans when you get on the inside. After growth, I start training people for becoming a person worth following, not leadership yet. The first person that you lead is yourself. Become a person that's worth following. I know a lot of people following people because they got baited for something that the person put out. But when they got close, they realized this person is not worth following. Be a person that's worth following. Then we begin the leadership modules, which is developing your leadership skills. That is for people a little further ahead. And then we get to developing the leaders around you. A lot of the people that I am in communication with that has been working with me for a while, that's the module a lot of them are going into before they can become the last one, which is an agent of change. You cannot lead movements or create change around the world when you have not developed people with the right philosophy and people who are actually growing. So a lot of the people who want to be agents of change, they have to master creating environments where people are growing, becoming people worth following, developing the leaders in them, and developing leaders around them. You as an agent of change have to have these 4 groups of people around you for you to create a movement. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth everything. So the development also involves the type of mentors you should choose for yourself, what to study, what courses to take, who are the type of people, groups, organizations you should be around that will help you develop on what you discovered when we get in our 30 days. And then we create accountability, roadmaps, momentum, how you will have an impact in the area that you actually discovered. So here's the foundation, and we build momentum on that foundation. We're core strong, and then we build a momentum on that foundation. So a big part is firstly awareness, and then we go into application. I don't want to make you feel that it is forever, but I've had people, I mean, if I could have brought Nikki on the call, Nikki's like my sister. I have a lot of people on this call, but I have a story that I will share with you within the community, and I'm not going to put out a lot now. But I remember Nikki, when I just spoke to her, she says, I heard her story and she didn't really think it was worth a lot. Big parts of it she was embarrassed, ashamed of. I said, well, I think I hear something in your story that you could help a lot of women with this. She said, who, me? It's almost like Jabez. Lord, I feel that you need to release me from the past. My mother said I was a son who was born in pain. Lord, help me to be released from this type of reputation. I said, Nikki, I want you to go in a room with a phone and go and record your story. It's time to tell your story of how God has helped you to turn this thing around. We're going to create an audiobook. She listened. I don't know if she was willing, but she did it. She created the audiobook. From the audiobook, we got workbooks from the workbooks. She has her book from the book. She jumped out and she says she's going to do a retreat for women who were in her situation. She now wants to give them hope. And we start working. It was almost over a year. And then one day she sent me a message and she says, Luke, I want to send you this because when you first met me, this is what I was holding on to. And I'm sure she wouldn't mind, but it was about $2,000 a month coming in from one opportunity. She was holding on to it like if she had to survive on that. What she did not wake up to was God had already given her the wealth. Bob Proctor called, you were born rich. When she leaned into what God had called her to do, she just leaned into it. She sent me a message, it was a testimony. In 12 months, she had done over £250,000. Helping women. She won, I think, and she received about 3 awards in the UK for what she's doing with helping women now. I sit back and I'm in amazement when people realize sometimes we feel that we're fighting so hard to make life work when God has an entire harvest for you. If we would just come into alignment with what He has already mapped out for us. So this alive experience is a journey. what you actually get. And by the way, we start on the 24th of June. Even though the call is on the 15th, I wanted to start the night before my birthday. And it's a 30-day experience. The live coaching calls happen in the community. You'll given access on that day. You get the community access. You're growing and learning with people. Your workbooks are in there. The resources for your personal growth, action plans. We do coaching times, question and answer. This is your time, and it's your time to invest in you. I price this in a way that I think it is affordable for people who want to make a change. I don't do anything with anybody one-on-one for this cost. And I'm doing an entire month for less than $100 US. I don't do high sales thing. You're not gonna get 20 emails talking about this and blah 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 blah. I don't do that. It's either you want it or you don't. I am just straightforward with value. If you believe that that change is worth this, I'm sure we spend this anyways at a restaurant. It goes in, it comes back out, clothes, whatever. Da, da, da. I think if you look at your future and you ask yourself, it's my time to make the change, then you do it. At 8:01, everybody who registered, the email with the link would have already been in your box. 8:01, 1 minute after the hour, you would have already had that email. So when you go to the email, your inbox, you'll see the link there. I'm not posting any links in any chats. It'll be in your email. So the next step is really for your clarity. And this is my open invitation to you. It's a discovery of who you are. It's a development of who you're becoming, and it's a deployment of what you were designed to do. Let me just give you this last word before we come off the call. And this has nothing to do with, it has everything to do with me. I have to put you under some pressure. Why? It's just the coaching me, the coach in me. Here's the pressure. Somebody has to take the responsibility to be the person who changes the trajectory of your family's name, your family's legacy, your family's influence in the earth. Think of, I heard a friend make a joke. I said this on the call. He said, you know why you don't have your great-grandfather's picture on your wall when you come in your house, or his father's on your, because he didn't leave you anything. He's doing it in a comical way. But it's the truth. I don't know my great-grandfather's father's name. I don't even have a picture of them up in the house. And it's not because they didn't leave me a house. But who is intentional about 2 generations from them? Here's what the Bible says. A righteous man leaves what? An inheritance. That's not character. For their children's children. That means anybody who's reading scripture, anybody who's a believer, should always have a vision that includes 2 generations after them. You cannot live struggling in your life. Then what will they do 2 generations from? If I die in the struggle, then whose shoulders are they going to stand on? I grew up in a 1-room house. I always remember saying, one of the things I want to do for my children is to make sure they have their own homes. And I don't boast to tell you this, but both of my kids have their own homes. That was important to me. Now it's to take care of their children. And I'm 45 years old. And over the next 2 years, I have made a decision, at least the people around me, I told them, this is building an empire time. You can hang out with anybody else who wants to play it small, play it average. Oh, I'm just here to survive. I'm out of alignment, going through pain and going through this, and we're just living on the crumbs. And no. That's not my portion. I have a reserved seat. There's a table that is built for me. I am not showing up late. I will be there early. I want to be there and have the full of what God has designed for me. You know what the Bible says? You shall eat the good of the land if you are willing and if you are obedient. So if all I have to do is line myself up and be willing and obedient to that which he has called me to do in the earth, and he says, you will eat of the good of the land, me and my family, I'll be able to leave an inheritance, leave a legacy. Inheritance is what we leave for them. Legacy is what we leave in them. You got to leave the both. And it's going to come down to you making the decision to being the one who chooses yourself to make that difference. I close the book. I end with that. I have nothing else to say to you. Those of you who have registered, in your email is an invitation to join. The 24th of June, the night before my birthday, we kick off with the first call. From that day, 30 days forward, we journey with you. It's mapped out if you have any chat. So for the next 9 days, some people who missed it may be able to see it. But from the 24th, that's it. We start our 30-day run. I'm super excited to be on with you. 167 of you were on the call. That's absolutely amazing.
I spent years trying to find my way, following roads that weren't mine to take. But deep inside there was a voice calling me, reminding me